Great. Okay, so we are live. Great. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Protalks by Superpro. I'm your host, Gaurav Tripathi, co-founder and CEO of Superpro.ai. And as you know, we keep bringing amazing professionals, our amazing super pros to you in every edition of Pro Talks with a very simple intent that you get to learn from their journey and you get to learn from their successes or their failures. Yeah. So our effort has been just that. Yes, we try to bring in professionals who are from different fields and people who have done something different and maybe who have done a lot of things. Yeah, so they have worn different hat. In the same line, today the super pro that we have got is pretty unique in that respect because what he's building sitting in India with team here, it's something which is one of its kind. Yeah, and it's the first company of its kind to be set up in India. Uh, yeah, so I'm sure you'll get to learn a lot. So all of you who are watching it live right now, yeah, you can ask questions. You can put in the questions in the chat box, and those who are watching the recorded versions later on, don't fret. You can put in the question in the comments. Our team will keep looking at it, and we'll channel the questions to our guest. Yeah, so don't worry. And okay, with that, I'll start. So our today's guest, Kumar Sankaran. Kumar, over to you, please.
Thank you, Gaurav. Hello to everyone. It's wonderful to be on this platform, Super Pro. So I'm Kumar Sankaran, the CEO of Leucine Bio, and what I'm building is something called as the microbiome. That's the technology that we're using. So basically, the microbiome is all the microorganisms that are living inside you and living on you. And Gaurav, can you believe it that we have more microbial cells inside us than human cells? So we are
Wow,
more microorganisms than human. Um,
great,
so that's the science that we're building, Gaurav.
great. Okay. So now that you have given the brief of it, I'll start more. I'll start with the start. Yeah. So, how did this microbiology thing happen? Yeah. So your education, where did you start? What did you study, and how did you get into microbiology?
So I did my bachelor's in microbiology, but then my master's was more into biotechnology and other life sciences
Okay,
areas.
honest admission. I didn't even know that there is a bachelor's in microbiology, and that too, long back. Yeah.
No, it's an age old field. I mean, studying bacteria, especially for infectious diseases and all that, is probably age old. Um, but then most of my work experience, I was a systems biologist. So back in
No, so
2000.
sorry. I'll before you jump there. So yes, I see that you did the bachelor's, you did the master's, and then you did the PG diploma as well. So you have been moving, and all this while you were very focused on that field itself. So while you were studying, had you already made your mind that yes, this is the field which you are going to stick to, or how was it?
So when I was studying, I was pretty sure that I wanted to be in the biological sciences field. What inside biological sciences, I didn't know. And after my masters, I was supposed to do a PhD and go into academia. That was what I wanted to do. But then once you get a paying job, it's very, very difficult to move away from a salary. So that's why I was stuck. I stuck it just with a master's.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. Okay. So how was this field back then? So we are talking about, just in case people you don't realize, we're talking about very early 2000s. Yeah,
yes.
and So at that time, when you're studying and in this field, well, how was the perception around the field, and what were the kind of opportunities in India at that point of time?
So back then, I mean, everybody. I mean, everybody who was doing a master's would say, we're going to do a we're doing going to do a PhD, either in India or outside India.
Yeah.
Or the other half would say, we're joining a Biocon or Reliance kind of a Reliance Life
Yes.
Sciences kind of a company to, get into the manufacturing
Yeah.
piece of it. So that is what. So it was either academic R&D or into manufacturing, and the my as luck would have it, I got into R&D from a company point of view as my first job, and so I was lucky in that way, but. I know most of my classmates went on to do PhDs, or right now they're sitting in some clinical research organization, doing some very exciting work back then. So back then, I mean, now you have a lot of clinical research organizations in India, but early 2000, I mean, there was absolutely, I mean, there's very little companies that were doing it. So one didn't even think of that as a as an place that you can go and work. So I mean, things have changed a lot over the last decade or so.
So did you face any challenge in terms of that? Okay, not going for the PhD, but looking after the job. So given the limited opportunities that were, did you have a challenge in finding the right opportunity, or it was just that fine, you were there and you got the opportunity?
I added one more challenge to myself. I said I'm not going to go out of India. Whatever job I'm getting, I'm going to get it in India. And no, I mean, it was a little bit of struggle. I mean, I think post my graduation, it took me close to 6-8 months to get my first job. In between, I was masquerading as a customer call center executive.
Wow.
Um, um, did a little bit of stint in KFC. Uh, worked in the kitchen over there for some time. So did all of that, but waited till I got the, right opportunity, and then from there onwards, there was no looking back.
No, great, great, great. This itself is, to everybody who is who's listening. I say this itself is a a great lesson here. If unless you have that determination and you are razor focused that yes, this is what you want, and to make that happen, yes, whatever else you have to do, just keep doing it till you get there. So yeah, I mean you could have easily easily chosen the easier path. I'll say.
Yes, and a much better paying path as well. But um,
Yeah. So, how was the stints of? I see that yes, you worked as a scientist, senior scientist, and you were working there. So, how was that period, the early career? What kind of work were you doing, and did it? Okay, I'll ask that later. First, yeah, what kind of work were you doing early on?
so the the work that I got introduced to in my first job is something called a systems biology, which basically means you're sitting in front of a computer and analyzing biological data. So to be honest, for all the biological science thing that I talk about, I haven't entered a lab post my graduation. I've been sitting in front of a computer, understanding biology and interpreting biology, but I don't know how to hold a pipette anymore, or to look into a microscope anymore. The last I ever touched that was in 2003. Um, so this was again a very unique job. I think it was one of the first few companies. My first job was in Connections Life Sciences, and mind-blowing experience. Uh, Imagine a fresher getting exposed to really cutting edge R&D, where I think we were the only people who never had Monday morning blues. Um, would work voluntarily for 7 days a week. from morning till night,
Wow.
just because we were doing something
Wow.
that was so exciting and that we loved. So that was so analyzing biological data was my first job.
But why was it exciting for you?
I mean, I mean, it's like reading Wikipedia and getting to understand something new. I mean, if I have to put it in a very simple language,
Wow.
so it's about there was a point of time I was probably reading about 10 research articles every day, and so this is cumulatively
I'll
close to about
I'll repeat it. 10 research articles every day. Wow.
towards my second or third year stint, I used to do close to about 100 abstracts a day,
Wow.
and I'd gotten to a level where I'll just skim through an abstract just to get the key points out of it. But it's like looking into your body and understanding what your body does in a molecular level, and every day was fascinating. So I remember the first month that I joined. I was We were working on diabetes, and everything was so black and white. Now when I think of it, I mean, I feel so foolish. Insulin is the hero, glucagon is the villain. Very black and white. One hormone cures you,
Yeah.
the other hormone is not that great for you. And from there on, to understand and to come to a level where you even wonder, how do you survive, how are human beings actually living, with so much of complexity. There's so much of learning that is there, and so which is what that was so exciting. And you should also give credit to organizations which allow you to learn and not give
Yes.
you just mundane tasks that you keep repeating over and over again, but allows you to explore, learn from your own mistakes as well.
Great. So you spoke that yes, you didn't go for the PhD and chose the easier path of yes going after a job, and since you started getting salary, you didn't go think about the PhD. But then you took even a more radical step. You were there in a job, you were doing good, and then you chose to do a startup. Yeah. So
Uh,
when did that happen? When did that trigger, or where did that seed, came in your mind that yes, you have to do a startup?
I think it happened very organically. It wasn't like I got up one day and I said I want to do a startup. I mean, it was, um, um, with my peer groups, we would talk a lot about, the kind of opportunities and the kind of stuff that you can do, and when you look at India and when you look at the non-existence of good R&D companies, you begin to wonder, one, there is an opportunity, and two, there is something that you something meaningful that you can build on. And after a point of time, a systems biologist, we couldn't find jobs in India other than one or two companies that were doing it. And we would get excellent offers from outside India, from Europe and from US, but nothing in India. So that's when decided to do some consultancy to try and see how that felt. Um, uh, I worked in a two-man company.
No.
I've been a single-man consultant for some time, before starting my current company. But now, it was a I want to do a startup was more organic, was more, you know, this is an idea. Let's try and do this. Let's try and do this. Not as a company, but let's try and find solutions. Um, and from there, it gradually grew into becoming a company, I guess.
So about the start. So Omix solution, which is there. What was the journey there? Yeah. So you started loan, and then it grew. So how was the journey like?
With Omix Solutions, a colleague of mine and I, after work every day, we used to walk back home, and this was a good 45 minutes to a 1 hour walk.
Oh,
And
wow.
and this was the mid 2000. It was still Bangalore was still a little green.
Yeah.
You could still have less traffic on the road and walk
Yeah, yeah, that's what
peacefully.
even I'm wondering that yes, once upon a time you could actually walk that long in Bangalore without getting stressed. Yeah,
So it was wonderful. My colleague, his name was Ashwin. He was more from the computational side. So we would bounce off ideas, we would discuss a lot of things, and from there, we kind of decided why not try this, and we came up with an idea. We wanted to implement it. We tried to implement it. It didn't. Um, I don't think either of us understood what business was what it is to start a company. We just knew technology, and that kind of fizzled out quite early. But that's the kind of thing that we started off. So it was more like a consultancy service that we built, but not something that went forward too much.
okay.
And to add a point, I don't think either of us regretted it too much. A lot of learnings that came out of it.
So you say a lot of learnings. Can you share few learnings from that journey?
That product alone is not the end of all. I mean, it's just the first step. There is much more than product, than just developing a product. Um, and it's also very important to have the right kind of team, the right kind of mindset, the right kind of environment at home. I mean, not everybody can just choose to leave a career and start a company. I mean, you need to have people at home to back you up. I think the one of the first thing you need to sell your idea and sell your company to is to your family members, and to get them onto your side. If they support you, then you can go to a long distance. Otherwise, um, you can't go far. So those were the kind of learnings that I had.
Wow. And so this was the I'll say the first iteration on the startup side, and then you started Leucine Rich Bio, right? So again, how did this transition happen, or what led from Omix to LRB? What happened really?
So after Omix, there was some time where I was just being an independent consultant. I mean, again, looking for jobs, trying to decide what I need to do next. I also sat at home for some time, twiddling my thumbs, um, just exploring the world around me. Um then I was running a blog called as Lucent Rich Bio. Um, you know, very
Oh,
very
interesting.
peculiar, very peculiar name. But it was
Yeah. So
it.
first the story on the name itself.
Back when I was working in connections, I thought I discovered the miracle diabetes drug, and it had a protein which had a lot of leucine rich repeats. Leucine is an amino acid, and a lot of proteins have a lot of leucine stuck together. So these are called leucine rich repeats.
Interesting.
From there, I created a blog called as Leucine Rich Bio.
Okay.
So when Prabhat and I actually thought about starting the company, we didn't have money to buy another domain. So we stuck with Los Angeles Bio,
Wow.
and that's the only reason that was the name. But the good thing about this is it's a good icebreaker, and
Yes.
it's a very unique name that people even in the biological domain tend to remember.
Yes. So now, so you started the blog, and but then, where did you exactly decide to start it at as a company? What was the trigger there?
So, my co-founder Prabhat and I initially thought, there was this exciting technology called as next generation sequencing, which was coming out. I mean, for those who have not heard of next generation sequencing, it is a way to um, sequence your genome at a very high throughput and a very low cost. And nowadays, a person's genome can be sequenced as little as $500. A decade ago, that was half a million to do. Um, so next generation sequencing was just coming out, and both Prabhat and I understood the technology really well. And we initially wanted to conduct workshops in college, and both of us suffered from the same thing, that we were systems biologists, and will just won't get a job in India. So we said, okay, let's go start a workshop. And so we prepared for about 3 months for the workshop. And the first college that we went to had 4 students in it, or 5 students in it, that attended the workshop. And that's when we realized, okay, workshops is not the way forward. So we went back to the drawing board. Um, so this was, I think, late 2013, early 2014. We went back to the drawing board. We discussed about whether to do human genetics or microbiome for 3 or 4 months, then said no to microbiome initially. Started off on human genetics. And interestingly, Gaurav, we decided to start the company in May. Okay, but it took us 1 whole month to get enough courage to put in money to actually incorporate a company and take an office space. So that didn't come easily. Yeah.
So how? So that was the start. From there, so how did you really start like building the business around it, and where did you see the opportunity? So where like now where you have reached, but then where did you see the opportunity early on?
I think the opportunity that we saw was, um, biological data is hard to understand, and if we can build a software platform um, that can help researchers, doctors, um, any kind of scientist to easily understand biological data, especially genomics data.
Mhm.
I think we thought that was a good way to go ahead, and that was the first platform that we built, a SaaS platform where any clinician could upload the genomics data,
Mhm.
and we'd make meaning out of it, and we'd give back to it. And the platform was actually pretty good. I mean, there was the databases that we created, the algorithms that we created was actually very, very good. I think at that point of time we just didn't know how to market it and how to get it out to a much larger audience. But what we did was we started attracting people who wanted to understand, their own genomics and their own microbiome, and that's where the pivot kind of happened. That we're probably not like a B2B SaaS company. We're probably a B2C, testing company. That happened through a journey where, as we would try and sell software platforms, people would just come back and ask, can you just do these testing for us and give us reports? And so that's how the journey went through.
Okay. So now I'll come back to the microbiome part. Yeah. So what exactly it is, for for a layman to for a layman to understand, right? Why should we? So first, what exactly is this microbiome thing, and what? How does it fit in our human body context?
So the microbiome, the more technical name is microbiota, is is all the micro around us, microorganisms around us, in us, on us, you name it. So we all know about the virus now, especially after COVID. But there are
Yeah.
so many viruses that are actually in us and on us all the time. There's also a lot of bacteria. There's also a lot of fungus, and it's in our rooms. It's in our hair. It's in our mouth. It's in our intestine. All these places. So back in 2010, 2011, a lab in the US kind of um, uh, discovered that the gut, one of the largest organs that we have, um, holds a lot of microorganisms, a lot of bacteria and fungus and virus, and uh, and I and now it's also gone to prove that we probably have more microorganisms, so more bacteria in our body than human cells,
Wow.
and it actually controls everything that we do. Gaurav, if you feel like having ice cream at about 4 o'clock in the evening, it's most probably a bacteria signaling to your brain saying that feed me ice cream.
Wow.
I want to eat ice cream now, so hence go out and get me ice cream. So it will send a signal to your brain to do that. So that's how powerful the microbiome is.
So
And
we are probably just the host for all of these guys.
Yes, yes. Well, we're just hosts. I mean, we're just this entire we are humans is just a pretense. Um, it's one set of microorganisms interacting with another set of microorganisms through us. So that's all it is.
Wow. Okay. So now, but from from a from an end user perspective, yeah. So you spoke about testing, about microbiome. So why should I really care about, from my day-to-day life perspective or health perspective? Yeah. Why should I really go for it? And what exactly is done when I talk when you spoke about testing? What's it about?
The microbiome actually controls a lot of your biological activity, and hence controls a lot of disease progression and disease itself. From anything from obesity to diabetes to cardiovascular disease, to depression to constipation to ulcers, you name it, the microbiome has a contribution to it, and a significant contribution to it.
Wow.
The rule of thumb is that you need to have a good diversity of microorganisms in your gut. You should not let one or two species dominate the gut. Okay. The reason I'm talking about gut microbiome more than all other microbiomes is, as we eat our food, all the microorganisms from there is directly going into the gut, and there's a lot of activity and there's a lot of growth of bacteria in the gut. 90% of all the bacteria that we have in our body is actually there in our gut, and it is this that is actually dictating all of our um human health, diseases, and all of that. So, like I mentioned, the ice cream thing was a good analogy. Like I mentioned, the all these bacteria, sends out particular metabolites and signals, and all of that, which will change the way your body functions, and thereby you're more getting prone to more diseases.
Mhm.
So, by looking at the gut microbiome, by seeing what we are at risk at this point of time, and by taking the right kind of nutrition, we can actually reverse these things.
Oh. So when you say testing, what exactly do you test?
So we take fecal samples or stool samples patients. So I am fondly known in the community as the poop entrepreneur. Uh, um, I import and export poop, and most days I am calling FedEx saying that there's a lot of shit in the customs. Can you please clear it and, and clear it for me? So we send a kit to a person's house where small amount of poop can be collected, and from that is where we do all the profiling.
So when you say profiling again, what does it mean? What is the kind of insights that you are able to generate from it?
Um, so, um, what we kind of do is identify all the microorganisms that are there. So, in any given individuals, we find 2,000 different species, or
Wow.
or around that number. And till date, I think in the Indian gut so far, we have identified 10,000 different species altogether.
Wow.
Um, so, and it's this kind of diversity that is actually very good. So, by looking at the relative abundance of all these species, how much of population of all of these species are present, we're able to predict whether this person is progressing towards diabetes or towards a heart disease or towards depression. You know, about 14, 15 diseases like this. Okay. And then we also do recommendations in terms of food, probiotics, prebiotics, telling an individual what kind of food that he or she needs to take to rebalance the gut, to get the right population of microorganisms in the gut so that you can prevent yourself from getting any of the diseases. Which is why we're moving away. We're trying to move away from sick care, where you only take care of your body after you fall sick, to a more healthcare paradigm where you're taking care of your body even when you're seemingly healthy.
And so you spoke about diversity. Now, how does it really look like in the real world? So, like for example, if you test somebody from north of India, or say somebody from south of India, or east or west, or somebody from Europe versus somebody from India, you see that these are the profiles will be different. Again, how different will it be?
Profiles will be quite different. To a to about 60-70% accuracy, I can also determine whether a person is living in an urban setting or a rural setting.
Oh wow!
Uh, how much of I can even detect whether you're exposed to passive smoking, um, and
Wow!
and and other things like diet matters, geography matters, the kind of food that a person is taking, where he's living, where she's going to work. So all of these different things dictate what the microbiome is, and every individual's gut microbiota is like that person's fingerprint. It's quite unique.
Oh wow!
But there is certain signatures that will allow you to say whether the person is uh, healthy or not healthy. So yes, there is differences between someone living in the north versus someone living in the south. There is a difference between someone living in the south but having um, uh, dal chawal versus someone living in the south having roti sabji. So all of that makes a difference.
And is there a universal definition of like this is how the composition should be?
No, there is nothing such as normal. I'm glad you asked this question. Almost every doctor asks me this question, and I find it very difficult to make them understand that there is nothing such as normal. Um, there is some. We definitely know what is non-ideal. We definitely know what a certain disease kind of signature will look like, and you tend to move towards the ideal situation but we don't know what that ideal thing is. All the world's knowledge put together, Gaurav, I think we probably understand only 10% of the microbiome. So there's still a lot of way to go before we can understand all of this.
So since we have been talking about microbiome and I think there's a very natural question. We have been hearing a lot about antibiotics. Yeah, and we have in fact read and people now I think it has come in the regular conversations as well that you should not have those many antibiotics because once there was a long period wherein yes it was like people used to blindly prescribe antibiotics and in India I believe still there is a case wherein largely doctors are just prescribing antibiotics versus when we look at outside India, there are now regulations. So where do you see that? What's the impact of antibiotics to our microbiome?
Very, very detrimental. So an antibiotic is almost like a nuclear bomb going off in your gut,
Oh my
and
God! Wow.
it'll indiscriminately kill all the kinds of bacteria over there, both the good and the bad, and the bad ones. And what then it will do is you don't know which one will start growing, and something might start dominating post the antibiotic treatment. So and hence and the kind of use of antibiotics that we have here in India is very, very bad. Especially self-medication of antibiotics
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
pro- it's probably the worst. Um, you know Now I think doctors understand this better and probably prescribe antibiotics only when it is absolutely needed. And plus there are antibiotics that are coming out which is targeting the only a particular kind of species of bacteria. So that is more useful than the general antibiotic that was given all these years. And the other trend that you're now seeing is, if you've noticed, the new antibiotics actually come with a sachet of probiotics with it. So you're killing bacteria at the same time you're replenishing it with probiotics. So everyone's learning and everyone's innovating, and the use of antibiotics is slowly being very focused instead of being very gentle. The more than antibiotics, Gaurav, the other thing that troubles me, and all the last 5 years I've been trying to educate this to everybody around me, is the use of antiseptics, for your hand
Ah yes.
and all of that. And Corona's come and destroyed all my education. Um, so all the bacteria that's there, all the bacteria, fungus, everything that's there on your skin, it's almost like an ozone layer. It's your first layer of defense. And when you're using antiseptics to actually on your hands, you're actually killing it. And this is why people tend to develop rashes and other skin related diseases. um, Unfortunately, the pandemic has forced us to use the antiseptic. It's probably the right thing to do right now. But we need to see ways of getting back the good bacteria back on our hands.
No, I've been intrigued a lot by these all of the ads which come in and of course in spite of regulations we'll give 99.9% guarantee it kills 99.9% of the germs and whatnot and that's so funny. I mean anybody when some scientific knowledge understands that's yeah I mean if it really does it's actually going to cause a lot more harm than any good.
Mhm. It does. I mean, and there is no such. I mean, at least to me, there is no such thing as good bacteria and bad bacteria. It's all in the right proportions. Even good bacteria, when it's too much in excess, is problematic for you. So maintaining the right balance, maintaining the right proportion, just like life.
Yeah.
I mean, getting that balance is very important.
No, I think that way the rules for lives or the laws are pretty much same and simple everywhere. It is striking a balance into everything. Whether it's at a micro level or at a macro level. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you. Great. So in this journey towards getting insights on microbiome. So uh, again, coming back to where you said that you realized people would want to get themselves tested and get their microbiome tested. So when was the actual trigger? When did you actually start rolling it out to people?
So, one of the wellness centers that we were working with here in Bangalore called as Potential Health Development, they were training a lot of the in Indian athletes competing at international games. So either in Olympics or any of the international events in different sports and all of that. And we want to understand, you know, how to improve their body and their performance better. And how that's how the discussion started on, can we look at the microbiome? Can we provide the right kind of nutritionist? Most Indian athletes are vegetarian. Okay, and for them to get the right kind of energy source and protein source is also very important, which the microbiome plays a very, very important role. So that's when we started this journey of wanting to look at it and wanting to see whether we can build out a consumer product, right from sampling to report to recommendations, and further consultation after that. Can we build out a product to do it? And it took us about at least from the time we said yes, let us do it, to actually come out with a good product. It took us about 3 years to get that.
And how's been the response or the reaction of people to it?
It's been mind blowing. I mean, it's especially individuals who have actually tried it have benefited it a lot, and they've seen either their symptoms coming down or their health improving. For whatever reason they've come and tried it, they've seen improvement in that. And there are individuals who are just out of curiosity wanted to come and try it, and how they've they keep we were recommending to do the test once in 3 months. Now we have a package where anyone can do it even on a monthly basis.
Wow.
So that you there was, I think, an ex Google employee who probably did it continuously every month for about 3 months or 3 years or something like that. And
Wow.
so there was a blog post with all the findings that he kept saying in his in his body. So there are a lot of such curious individuals who want to test it a lot and see how their body reacts to different conditions and how they can help improve it. So it's I think the challenge is people knowing something like this exists. First of all, the science like this existing. Secondly, a company like this existing. And then once they discover that, then they enjoy the journey a lot.
And how much does this thing cost?
So our retail price right now is 14,000 rupees.
Okay.
It's probably a tad bit on the higher side for the Indian market. Unfortunately, the technology that we use is a little expensive. But when we first started off, the test costed 35,000 rupees.
Wow.
We bought it down to 26, and now it's down to 14. And hopefully, in about a year's time, it'll be well below the 10,000 rupee mark.
Wow. So this is like for one time test. But if is there something if I go for the monthly option?
Yes, so for about a lakh, I mean, you can get a monthly option for 12 months, and along with that, you get a great body and a really good mind space.
So, oh, yeah, good that you mentioned about mind. So, I remember reading something about the connection between gut microbiome and mind. But what are your views on that?
Oh, I think it's one of the strongest links. The gut-brain axis it's a bidirectional axis. So if you're stressed in the mind, the microbiota will change. If the microbiota changes, it affects your mind. So it's a bidirectional axis that way. The link is very, very strong. So we've seen cases where people, who have anxiety, have had depression, they're feeling their symptoms come down. We've also seen individuals with Parkinson's where a little bit of their symptoms are coming down. Something called as brain fog. All of us, you get up in the morning, you don't feel like doing anything, you're lethargic, all of that. That's because of too much of pizza and burgers in your diet, too much of gluten-rich food in your diet, and it's messing up the microorganisms, and hence it's messing up your brain. So the link is very, very strong, and the best way um, to have a great mind and body is ensuring that your microbiome is good.
I mean, this reminds me again of if we go slightly on the philosophy side and and even so Ayurveda or given what are uh, what our people, elders in our family have been telling us that everything is really, it starts in the gut, right?
Mhm.
You are what you eat, and everything is connected to what you eat. I think, and then in between, of course, we saw that people will say, "Oh, come on, it can't be. How can what I eat determine what I'm thinking, or so there's no connection." But now I think it's coming back, and it's coming back in a very strong way that there is a strong scientific evidence that yes, it's indeed correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at traditional nutritional practices, I mean, not India has some great, rich history in that. I mean, but not only India. I mean, if you look worldwide at all the traditional nutritional practices, it actually makes sense right now. There's a reason we do. There's fasting in every community in one form or the other. Whether it is Ekadesi in what we do in India, or other kind of fasting that's being done. We have scientific evidences of how fasting changes the microbiota. We have evidences why certain vegetables need to be eaten in certain season. One of the key things that I keep telling the people taking our test is be seasonal. Whatever fruit is growing in that season, only eat that. Don't eat a mango when it's not grown in that season. It just won't suit your gut. So there is a reason for all the practices, ancient practices that we've had, and now science is proving why that is very, very important.
So now what's the way forward? So of course, I think yeah, I spoke too much on that side, but yeah, you have already uh, built that business. You raised funding, and now you are seeing that yes, people are reacting very strongly to it. Yes, this is something, and I think it helps that yeah, more and more uh, awareness is it's developing around it. But what's the way forward for LRV as a company? What do you see?
So the vision that we have, and what we want to do is change the healthcare paradigm. We do want to get people more into preventive healthcare than into chronic disease management. And we strongly believe the microbiome is the way forward. Gut microbiome is one of the aspects, but there's oral, there's skin, there's all other kinds of microbiomes that we can look at. Um, and so we want to continuously build products, scale products, and our ambition is to be a global company. I mean, we're already getting samples from outside India, from Middle East and Europe, and we want to continue, being a global company and a global brand. And it's it's something that I think all we new age entrepreneurs wanting to have why can't India have a global pure truly global company.
Yep.
That's what we want to do in the healthcare space.
Great. Great. I'll just check if we have any questions from the registrants. Okay. No, I've covered, I think, most of the questions were around, predictably, were just around, yeah, okay, microbiome itself, that, yeah, what it is, and yeah, I think I've covered those questions. One was just, okay. So, what's your advice to, if you were to give an advice to your old self, maybe back in, so you were in the early or late 2000s, what will you advise that, Kumar?
um, Trust yourself more, back yourself. um, uh, you will end up building a good product and giving that product out, um, and probably a few lessons how to have done it at a much faster pace than what we eventually did it. But that, I mean, just back myself a little more.
Cool. Great. With that, I think, yes, we are almost there. So we are good with time. Any final remarks, concluding remarks from your end, again, especially around um doing startups in India around such a field, such in life sciences, let's say. Yeah. What's your advice to people who are thinking about it, and what's your remark on the current state of things?
I don't know if I'm the right person to give out advices, but what I strongly believe, no matter what the field is, I mean, whether it's as esoteric as life sciences or whether you're building products in another company, if if you have passion and you want to truly believe it, I mean, it's a hard journey. It's very very painful, but you will enjoy it as well. So please go out there. Please start a company. Please develop products. It's probably the best experience you'll have in your life, no matter which way the company goes. It's better than doing two MBAs together, I would say. Just go out there and do it. Just don't sit and think about it. Just do it.
Great. Wow. So, guys, you heard it. Yes, just go ahead and do it. So, by the way, and if you are thinking of doing it, and you have your own share of doubts, and you want to talk to a mentor, or you want to get some more advice, yes, Kumar is a super pro. He's available on Super Pro. So his the page link, his Super Pro page link is shared in the chat, and it will be there in the description of the video wherever we share it on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. It will be there, and so if you want to get in touch with Kumar to understand more, or maybe just to know even more about microbiome itself, please go ahead and you can just book a call with him on Superpro, on his Superpro page, and yes, he'll be happy to tell you more about your gut. So great. With that, thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. The recordings will be available on YouTube and other platforms very soon in about a couple of days. And stay tuned. I'll be back with other edition. Thanks a lot, Kumar, for joining us. It was amazing, and I'm sure everybody has learned a lot about their gut now.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much for having me, and it was a wonderful experience being here.
Thank you. Great. Good night. Take care,
Night.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.